allowing everybody to get settled in before we begin with today's session on how Bentley supports early career professionals in navigating their career search. We have a great panel today, so we're really excited that you all are able to join us, and we will begin in just a moment or two here as people continue to pop in and get themselves settled in, and then we'll go ahead and begin. So Sean, it's 9:03. I want to be conscious of people's time. I still see some people kind of popping in, but we'll go ahead and we will get things started. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Gordon Beridge. I'm the Senior Associate Director for Graduate Admissions here at Bentley University. I want to welcome everybody to today's session on how Bentley supports early career professionals in navigating their career search. We have a great panel set up today to answer all your questions, talk about their experience, and we'll be introducing them in just a moment. But I want to introduce our moderator for today, Dr. Sean Ferguson, the Vice President of Strategy and Innovation here at Bentley University. So Dr. Ferguson, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks so much, Gordon, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for signing up and joining today. We have a great panel of Bentley alums to talk about their experience in our early career programs. And when we talk about early career programs, one of the things that we mean by that is our programs where typically people come within 1 or 2 years of graduation to our graduate program. And so, because the career path and the approach is a little bit different there than, say, for an MBA program where more students have work experience and such. And so, so today will be an informative panel. We did one for our MBA students yesterday, and it was great. And we have a great group here. So why don't we go to the next slide? And so we've got 3 alums from different industries and different programs and different stages of career to kind of provide that perspective to help you really see the Bentley value proposition. And so we have Peter Kolodjiej, Senior Finance Manager from the Razor Group and a graduate of our Master's in Finance program. We have Danielle Ericks, Head of Finance at Downeast Cider House. And then Alex Yang, she'll be joining us. I think she, maybe, having some technical difficulties, so we're working on that. And then after the panel session, and you all are welcome to ask questions, in fact, encouraged to ask questions about their career progress. I would refrain from asking questions about things specific to you about your application or other non-career oriented elements related to the program, and let's keep focused on career elements. And so with that, we'll get started. And, I'd like Peter and Danielle to kind of talk a little bit more about your background, your kind of what brought you to Bentley, your career progression since graduating from your graduate program. I think Danielle is a double Falcon, so she's graduated twice from Bentley, and how your degree program helped you. And so we'll start with Danielle and then go to you, Peter.
Sure. Thanks, Sean. So I got my undergraduate at Bentley a very long time ago at this point. So I came in for accounting with a math minor, ultimately ended up going into public accounting straight out of Bentley. And Bentley was kind of my launching point for that. So I went through a recruiting program at Bentley where they specifically targeted Bentley students. So that was really helpful because public accounting opens a lot of doors throughout your career. It also helps you build the foundational knowledge for the professional workforce. Through that, I ended up pursuing my CPA license. And so part of that was attaining the additional credit hours for that. So I came back to Bentley about a year later after I had finished the CPA exams and pursued my master's in tax with a concentration in real estate. By that time, I was kind of transitioning out of public accounting, still doing tax, but at a real estate investment trust. Since then, it's been kind of a zigzag, which personally I kind of like, and I think it's built a lot of various skills that I'm now leveraging. So started out in tax, spent about 6 years there, spent another 6 years or so in like corporate accounting. And for the last 4 or so years, I've been more finance and FP&A and planning forecasting focused. So right now I work for Downeast Cider House. I lead the finance function. It's a relatively new role for me. I've been there about 3 months. I came in because they had a core accounting function. So I think like AR, AP, cash management, basic financial reporting. And I was brought in to build a more comprehensive finance function. So getting into budgeting, forecasting, analysis, partnering across the business for decision support, and kind of overall financial strategy.
Right. Thank you very much. How about you, Peter? You have a great career path as well. Love to learn more.
Yeah, sure. So I got my undergraduate degree at UMass Lowell in like business administration with a concentration in finance. During that, I did like a 6-month co-op at MFS Investment Management down in Boston in like their investment ops department. So I thought I would go the investment route after undergraduate. So did that for a little while at State Street after I graduated and quickly realized I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing. So I used my degree more of as a pivot into kind of corporate finance and like the FP&A world. So I got an internship during my degree, which kind of opened that door. And then after that, after graduation in December 2020, I went to work at iRobot for about 1.5 years, working on their America's commercial finance team. And then about 1.5 years into that, a role kind of just fell into my lap via LinkedIn at this startup called Perch, which is like an e-commerce startup. The easiest way to explain it is we sell a bunch of products across Amazon as third-party sellers. The industry is kind of in consolidation mode. So Razor Group bought us about 1.5 years into my role there. So now I work for Razor via acquisition. And yeah, very similar to Danielle's role. I also work in FP&A. I'm the business partner to our chief commercial officer, help with commercial strategy. So anything from pricing, advertisement, portfolio segmentation, budgeting, forecasting. It's all the stuff I do.
Great. And so why did you guys choose your degree? I think you both mentioned you had business degrees beforehand, but you felt it was time for another degree. What were you thinking and why'd you choose Bentley?
Who first?
You can go ahead, Peter.
Okay. So as I alluded to, I used it as a pivot out of financial services. I knew I was interested in FP&A, but I didn't have the skills to make that pivot without additional experience or a degree. So I basically the reason I chose Bentley specifically was the career services department. I've heard good things about it, and it's definitely true that they're highly ranked, highly efficient at placing students. So strategically, I picked Bentley for that reason. And luckily, I developed a good relationship with a professor who landed me my first FP&A internship, and that opened the door. So it was quite strategic, and luckily it worked out.
All right, fantastic. And Danielle, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, having gone to Bentley for undergrad, it made the decision pretty easy, right? It was a known quantity for me. It helped me a lot landing my first role and the internship that led to my first role. I was at EY at the time. I was in the tax area, and in order to continue progressing in my career, I needed a CPA license. In order to do that, I needed another 30 credit hours. So I had actually applied to the graduate program while I was still an undergrad for the 5-year program, and then ultimately deferred so that I could spend time focusing on the CPA exam. Chose my tax concentration because that's what I was doing at the time.
All right, fantastic. How, like in your particular case, Danielle, you went from, tax to accounting to finance. That's multiple inflection points over the course of your career. How typical are these kind of pivots and transition for someone who goes into a program like the tax program?
Yeah, I think certainly not everyone does it, right? Like there are many people who love tax and it's for them and they do it for life. I wasn't one of those people, and I'm what I've heard referred to as like a class migrant. I grew up in a blue collar family. I was surrounded by like truck drivers, hairdressers, things like that. So I was figuring out what I liked to do, right? So I came out of Bentley. I knew that tax it was something that I was good at, and I thought it was interesting. As I started progressing in my career there, I didn't like the higher up levels of that. Like as I started to get more into management, it wasn't for me. So I ended up pursuing a switch there. It's not uncommon. I've actually worked with someone who had almost the same exact trajectory as me, including down to the same years. So it certainly is something that people do. I will say the jump from tax to accounting was a lot easier than the jump from accounting to finance and FP&A. But I think it's all foundational skills, right? Like I still leverage all of the skills from my tax days. I still leverage all the skills from my accounting days. So it's certainly something you can do. You just have to look for the right opportunities. And I think it's a lot about not only figuring out what you want to do, but also what you don't want to do and how you find the right roles that fit that.
Outstanding. And so, when I look at your profile, Peter, you went through an acquisition, right? And so I think that's an interesting dynamic. How were you able to maintain career momentum and kind of, find yourself in a role of interest through that transition?
Yeah. So I've been very fortunate in this ride in the aggregator space. So let me give you a little bit of history on like the industry in general. So they raised a bunch of VC debt funding in like 2019 when e-commerce was booming. We acquired a bunch of brands from third-party sellers on Amazon, and then all of that slowly started to unravel after COVID when the e-commerce boom started dying down. So basically, we're in consolidation mode. All of these startups are buying each other. And Perch was unfortunately bought about like a year ago. So in that space, I was tied to the hip of our director of commercial financial planning, working directly with her, and I was fortunate enough to partner with her on the deal between Perch and Razor Group. So I had an in that way. And yeah, it's just really making yourself visible to senior leadership, making sure you add value, that you're high contribution, and that raises your chances of surviving an acquisition where you're not, unfortunately, the buyer. So yeah, a lot of luck has gone my way, but it's also turbocharged my career. Been through a lot of problems in the past 2 years.
Outstanding. And one of the things we hit on a lot in the last session was the Bentley network and how it played a role in your career, either through faculty or alumni or something along that. And I think you mentioned you had gotten your first role, Peter, through a professor.
Yep.
Or were there other ways where the Bentley connection has kind of facilitated opportunity or progression for you career-wise?
I think it was definitely foundational at the very start. Similar to what Danielle was saying, it kind of really quickly teaches you what you don't want to do. Whether you're talking to other students that are teaching you about their background, maybe you don't align with what they want to do, so you can write that off and kind of narrow your focus. So that was one way. I like to say via negativa, like you narrow your focus quickly. And that's kind of how I got to FP&A, whereas a lot of people might get lured into financial services and then they find out they don't like it. That's pretty common from what I've seen, to be honest. So yeah, the Bentley network, when you're first starting out, and especially when you don't have a clear plan, it's amazing. You quickly narrow your focus and you get exposed to people that can open doors for you, especially professors. Like I like to tell students, your professors are not just your teachers. They're from the industry and they have connections. They can connect you with outside people. Like Professor Wasserman gave me several informational interviews with CFOs, which is an amazing opportunity. And I think people can definitely leverage that here. Kind of rambled on. I don't know if I answered the question.
Then, how about yourself? How did the network, be it through faculty or other alums or classmates, help or play a role in different stages of your career?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's been less about like landing a role because of it and more about how do I be the best professional that I can be, right? And I think one of the key factors to success when I look at myself or I look at people around me who have succeeded, it's knowing when to ask for help, right? So I've seen people who don't know when to ask for help, and they're their own biggest roadblock. So for me, it's been being able to have peers, even if they're not in the same company as me, to call and say, like, how do you handle this situation? Have you seen this before? Is there anything that like you would think of that I'm not thinking of? And I think that's helped a lot as I've navigated new situations. I mean, given the pivot points in my career, I'm often doing new things, right? Like I haven't done the same thing for very long throughout my career. So being able to kind of tap into my network and tap into that collective knowledge has been really helpful.
Great point. We have a bunch of applicants who are thinking about, should I come to Bentley? Should I not come to Bentley? Were there any seminal moments in the classroom that like stick out to you that they were like aha moments? I think you guys talked about this from like I think you mentioned, Peter, your internship, but other classroom moments that really kind of opened your eyes up to the opportunity that was there, and you're like, oh wow, this was a transformational, educational experience.
That I don't know if it's still a thing, but GB 301 was a thing when I was an undergrad at Bentley. And that to me was like the closest you could get to real world experience in the classroom. And that I think is when it started to click. Like we did a comprehensive business plan. We were working on Subway at the time. They were talking about like rolling out pizza. And that's when it became real to me. And I think a lot of the things that I had kind of been reading in the textbooks, I was like, yeah, that's not that interesting. But then when I saw it actually applied, that's when it became really interesting to me. And that's when I started to be able to say, like, I can envision what this is like in the real world. And I think that's been one of the things throughout my career is like, how do I influence driving a business forward? And it goes back to, things that I was learning at Bentley.
Yep. Outstanding. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, a little different take. I mean, my financial analytics program was heavily international students. So basically every class I got exposed to a bunch of different cultures, a bunch of different ways of thinking about problems, and everyone was super motivated to basically do the best they could. So that in itself kind of motivated me to like really work hard and turbocharge my networking, my classes. Something I kind of lost right after undergrad when I was working a job I kind of hated. So Bentley was a really refreshing change of pace. And it certainly instilled in me the drive to kind of make the pivot and just work with amazing people. So it's not even just the education, it's like the students you meet, the faculty you meet, everyone's super excited to be there. Yeah.
Okay. I want to see, we have a question from the audience, and it's Tracy is asking about internships in the program, and specifically in the Masters of Accounting. I would hope that Alex would have been here because I think that would have been a good example. But for Tracy, we're very strong with internships in accounting. I would say out of all the industries, accounting has very structured kind of hiring process. And we have deep roots at all the big four accounting firms, because I think you worked in accounting. You mentioned you worked in accounting as well, Danielle. And so did you have your internships in undergrad and grad school in the accounting space, or?
So when I was in undergrad, in between my senior year, I interned at EY, and I was actually very fortunate. One of the partners took an interest in me, and I needed a job during my final year of school. So they actually created a standalone internship for me throughout my last year of undergrad. And then I rolled straight into a permanent role right after graduation. And then I was doing my grad degree at night. So I continued working full time at EY and did my grad degree in the evenings.
So was that partner, I just want to, take a shot. Was that a Bentley alum, or they were just a random partner at the firm at EY?
I think she might have done Bentley for her grad degree.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think we connected a lot because I was kind of a workhorse. Like I've been working since I was like 15, and I think that the experiences through Bentley, right? Like I had work study as well through Bentley, and I think that helps a lot, right? When you're developing like those basic things where you're not just day one in an office setting. I think that made a big impression. So the prior work that I had done, I think helped there, but I do think she also got her grad degree at Bentley.
I can echo just from things I've observed, like Big Four is always on campus. I was at the graduate, I forget the name of the event. It's where alumni talk to students, and Big Four was there. So Bentley
Yeah,
alums
the
were there,
career
like
fair, or was it like a open
career
house?
conversations or something.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
career
yeah.
conversation.
So they're always on campus, and I'm sure there's always accounting internship opportunities.
And I think, looking at your profile, Tracy, as a ACCA, certified person, I think you'd probably be a very significant interest to one of these kind of firms. And so, one of the things that we want to also do is provide perspective on what's going on. Where is the path for you going forward? So what do you two see as the next stage of your career?
I can go first, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
So interestingly enough, we're in another consolidation scenario this year, except we're the buyer, luckily. So we're swallowing another firm that's basically going to double us in size and hopefully be in a position where we turn around our performance when we can start paying back our debt, which is nice. So that's going to be very exciting for this year, and I'm basically positioned to be the director of commercial finance. So I'll be leading our entire commercial finance function and hopefully build that out into a strategic finance function more broadly, so I can expand into supply chain, which would be cool. So yeah, a lot of good things this year. I plan on staying in FP&A forever, particularly retail. I really like the buying and selling, the brand aspect of things. More so than like SaaS, where it's just LTV and CAC, and it's not that interesting, to be honest. But yeah, Danielle, go ahead.
So I mean, I'm hopefully going to stop pivoting for a little while. So I mean, I've only been in my role for 3 months. We aren't big on titles here, so anywhere else I would probably be the CFO. So my responsibilities are essentially CFO responsibilities. So I'm working on really building those out, right? There's some things that have not been under my purview before. For instance, like insurance is relatively new to me, and managing like bank covenants, right? Like that's been something that I've been vaguely aware of that someone else has been responsible for in the past. So building out those skills, and over time, hopefully the company is able to grow and I'm able to gain experiences through that. So it's a good brand. It's a local brand, which I really like. I also like being in the CPG space, so I plan on staying there.
Outstanding. And as we wrap up the panel, is there one piece of advice that you would like to leave our audience? We'll start with you, Danielle, and then we'll go to you, Peter.
Yeah, I would say be open-minded and leverage your networks. I know I talked about it before, but the conversations that I've had with other people in similar spaces or maybe adjacent spaces has really helped me throughout my career in order to understand what I want to do, because there will be things that you'll find that you're good at that aren't your passion, right? And when you're doing something that's your passion, you're going to be way better at it and you're going to be far more successful at it.
Yeah, to echo that point, like even if it's a student or just someone you randomly meet on campus, everyone is a potential door to something else that could be an opportunity. So make sure you're speaking up, make sure you're making friends on campus. You're not just there to learn, you're there to meet people. Second, if you're going into any like analytical role, whether it's finance, tax, I always stress, please learn SQL. It's becoming like an industry standard. You're going to need to know SQL. It's not just Excel anymore. So that's my tip.
I'm literally teaching myself SQL right now.
Yeah, ChatGPT is your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, so since you guys have brought that up, what do you kind of see the role of an AI impacting people who were earlier in your career on your path?
Specifically, I like the lower levels where you're actually doing more of the nitty gritty and you're not just a business partner. I think it's going to speed up a lot of your work, and you're probably gonna, I guess, fast track to being a business partner more quickly, because that's where your role turns more into you're talking to people and you're trying to reach an alignment on something, whether it's business plan assumptions or numbers. That's where the role changes, and that's where AI obviously won't help you. It's just people skills. So I think it'll, at least in finance, it's going to turbocharge your career path. You're not going to stay at this analytical level for very long because the AI is just going to do it for you. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that there's the what and then there's the why. And so what do we do about it? Right. And so the AI, I think, helps get at the what a lot more quickly, but especially it depends on the size of the business, right? So I tend to gravitate toward like medium-sized businesses. I don't think that they're typically leveraging AI to the best of their abilities. So that's a fresh perspective that you can bring in, right? Like for me, AI has been relatively new throughout my career, right? It wasn't really a thing. Like we had a little bit of robotic process automation toward the beginning. So that's a perspective you're able to bring in. One example is we use the co-op program at Northeastern because we're in East Boston. And we had someone come in and use Python to automate something that was taking someone like half a day to do, and now it takes them 10 minutes. And if he hadn't spoken up and been like, hey, I know a better way to do that, it probably wouldn't have even been on our radar. So it's also a really good opportunity for you to make a name for yourself and to make an impression and to have an impact, because you might go in and say like, hey, I'm new and I'm early in my career and like they know better than I do. Not necessarily. Bring in your fresh perspective. Don't be afraid to speak up and be like, have we considered doing it this other way? Because you might be surprised at the things that you're bringing to the table that aren't already there.
Yeah, if you're like
Well,
shaving days off of your month-end close, you're leaving more time for analysis and actually like
Absolutely.
solving business problems. So it's huge, huge uplift.
so, one of the things that, you guys have talked about, you made this point about mid-sized companies, Danielle. And, I think, Peter, your company being acquired is in that kind of, it's not a big Fortune 500 range, but it's more mid-sized. And so how do you feel about mid-sized versus big companies, and how people should think about, what fits them best from a cultural standpoint and that kind of thing?
I think it's very personal. I think, and sometimes you won't know until you've experienced it, and different people will value different things, right? So for me, like I like the smaller companies because I like the teams that we all know each other. I can make a big impact. I can change things really easily. So that's why I tend to gravitate toward roles where I'm like overhauling a function or building a function or things like that. That's a lot harder to do at a really big company. You have to like untangle so much stuff. You have to get rid of so many legacy things. So for me, it makes more sense for me to be at a mid-sized company. I have people in my network who would never consider working at the companies that I work at because it's not the right environment for them. And I don't think either of those are better. We just have to know which ones are good for us.
Yeah,
Peter?
I think especially when you're first starting out, there's basically like two very clear pros and cons of both sides. I think in terms of startups, like small to mid-sized companies, you're going to have a lot more freedom to do things, and there's going to be a lot less hand-holding, and you're going to be expected to learn things on your own. And it's a higher risk environment. Like I could have easily lost my job last year, which is crazy to think about. So if you're a risk taker and you're intellectually curious to the point where like you do things yourself, I think you're going to thrive in a smaller firm, and you're going to honestly like rise faster. On the flip side, if you value structure, security, like really hands-on training, like you have a spelled out path for you, that is what a big firm offers essentially. So it's really personal preference, whatever environment you prefer. I just go that way.
I think so.
Yeah,
It's your career too, right? Like earlier in my career, being at that big four was really helpful, even though it's not something that I want to do later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's you guys make great points. There's that benefit of getting that big organizational foundation and exposure to processes, but then getting at a smaller organization might give you more intimacy and access to, the senior ranks, right? And so we see this a lot where people say, well, I want to be closer to the CEO or that level. Whereas if you're in a big company, that doesn't happen, and it actually can slow down your progression, right? And limit your opportunity set. So that's great. Well, this has been fantastic, Danielle and Peter. We really appreciate you all's time. we're going to move to a couple of slides before we close out that kind of talk about the value proposition for Bentley. And, one of the things, I've had the, opportunity, I'm calling you off on this webinar from Singapore. We're running a course with AI in emerging markets. And so the points about AI with Danielle and Peter were super timely. We've been over here going to various countries. So we went to Singapore, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and Malaysia, looking at the different use cases for AI in different markets and contexts, right? And so I think one of the things that you'll be well positioned with in all of our programs is that AI is becoming more part of the educational experience and how to leverage it as a manager. When we think about, what an element that makes Bentley favorable, being in Boston is a significant portion of that. One of the things here, all our panelists are coming from different points of view in different industries. So Boston's a super highly diversified economy. We're particularly strong in areas like financial services, technology, health and life sciences. And so if these areas resonate with you, I don't think you could pick a better place to work. The other thing about Boston is that there's a level of economic growth here that's unrivaled on the East Coast and Midwest. The metro area has a gross metropolitan growth rate of 6%. It's the only East and West Coast, East or Midwest city that has that. So not New York, not Chicago. It also has the 5th highest gross metropolitan product per capita. And for those of you guys who don't know what gross metropolitan product is, it's really the GDP of a metropolitan area. And so that level of economic productivity is, I think, a reflection of the diversified nature of the economy. But one of the things that we're also seeing, even from our kind of traditional kind of big four, accounting firms, is that the entrepreneurial mindset and skill set is becoming more and more sought after from our employers. And with Boston, Boston's a top 3 in the US when it comes to venture investment. So your ability to work in startups or be in that ecosystem is great. A lot of times for us at Bentley, we're focused on enhancing our kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem here, but it's a different approach than a lot of other schools where entrepreneurship is a more founder-centric approach to entrepreneurship, whereas we're taking a more kind of innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem approach. So, and what does that mean? Everyone doesn't have the big idea, but a lot of people may want to be a part of it, right? And so, maybe you're in the space where you help take the product from conception to scaling it up and going from 100-person company to a 1,000-person company, right? And we think Bentley grads and the kind of skills that we build here position you well for that as well, and not just your traditional big corporate jobs. At the same time, with technologies like AI and such, the rate of change in the industry requires people to think more entrepreneurially about things. And so, I think that's one of the compelling elements of being here as well, and what we deliver in our curriculum. When you think about Boston, we have some of the highest growth rates in areas that are directly related to our various graduate programs. So there's been like 19% growth in jobs related to business statistics and analytics. And so our MS in data analytics is well suited for that. Our the human computer interaction market has grown by 16.5%. Our master's in human factors and information design goes well there. Information technology, we have a STEM paths in our MBA program and all of our different programs. Market research, again, something that would be under data analytics. And then Peter mentioned earlier that he took the financial analytics track when he was in the Masters of Finance. So we're really well aligned with these kind of growing trends here. And when you compare Boston to, say, the US and the global landscape, before Bentley, I worked at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and then the Asia School of Business in Kuala Lumpur, which is the MIT partnership school. Well, a lot of times, more recently, people have been making choices to go to regional global schools. versus, say, the US. But the difference is the hiring market, while the cost of some of these global schools might be less, the hiring market is very fragmented. There's not scalable, systematic kind of internships. In a lot of places outside of America, internships aren't even paid, right? And so this is what I think differentiates the US job market. And then I think it puts Bentley and Boston at the front of the line when it comes to the opportunity set. It's kind of incomparable, from an opportunity perspective here in the United States. And so we hope this career session really helped you all kind of think about the value proposition for Bentley, and seeing our esteemed alums and their success validate that this is the place for you. With that, I wanted to see if Danielle or Peter have anything else to say or closing remarks before we turn it over to Gordon to close out the presentation.
I don't have anything specific to say, but I'm always happy to connect with alums or people who are considering Bentley. You're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to connect, and you're welcome to ask me anything, especially with my kind of zigzag career. I'm happy to answer anything about different stages of my career or any questions you have.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts. And if you like startups and crazy venture debt funded firms, reach out and I can tell you about my crazy stories working in this industry. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support. You're great representatives of the community that our alums really help create and foster here at Bentley. Gordon, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sean and Peter, Danielle, both. Thank you both so much. You represent Bentley in such a great way. We're so proud to have you both as our alumni. And thanks so much for taking time out of what is obviously a very busy schedule to be here with us this morning and share your great stories. So after hearing these great stories from Peter and Danielle, hopefully we've motivated maybe some of you to go ahead and start your application with us. I saw that we have a question there about an application fee waiver. Yes, we can absolutely help you out with that. You can send us an email at applygrad@bentley.edu for any questions about your application, but I'll go through it right now and then we'll talk a little bit about the costs of the application. So the application requirements are pretty straightforward. First things first, we need to see an updated resume. We will also accept a CV and your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profile is going to be very important. Next, we want to see one letter of recommendation. We do give you the option to submit a second one, but we only require one. We are looking for one essay, and then there's an optional additional personal statement that you can submit as well. I always tell students we're a business school. You need to be succinct and to the point. And so there is a minimum and maximum word requirement, minimum 300 words, maximum 500. And so it's really important that you stay within those ranges. But again, one essay required and then an additional optional statement. Next, we do look for GRE or GMAT scores. This is currently optional for students who are applying. However, we typically tell students this is a great opportunity also to really demonstrate your skill sets, particularly if there's a part of your application that may not be as strong as you would like. And this is a great way to really kind of boost up your application to really emphasize your skill set with that GRE or the GMAT. Next, we have the English language test. We do accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, or Duolingo. Please do note with the English language test, that's only required for students who received their entire degree in a foreign language. So if you received your degree that was not in English, maybe you went to a Francophile university and you only speak French, or your degree was only taught in French, you will need to provide an English assessment. If your entire degree was taught in English, we can look to waive you from that requirement. Then we will need to see your transcripts, all transcripts of all schools that you've attended. And then if you attended an international institution, you will need to get them evaluated. Please do note that does not mean translated. It needs to be evaluated from the educational standards in your home country or wherever you went to school into the US 4.0 standard. And that is going to be really important. And then there's also an interview that you'll have to do. A lot of our programs do require interviews. for this. And so you need to submit for that. Not all programs require it, but some of them do. But if you do want to have an interview, you can always reach out to us at applygrad@bentley.edu, and we'd be happy to have that either pre or post your submission for your application. And I'll post the email in just a second in there. So if this is something that you want to learn a little bit more about, we do have a couple of different options. We obviously offer our MBA programs here. We offer full-time, part-time. We also, Bentley's been teaching MBA programs for over 40 years. But as both Danielle and Peter and Dr. Ferguson have talked about, things are changing and they change rapidly, and we need to be able to adapt to the changes that are happening. And so Bentley University is always looking to innovate and challenge our incoming students. And so we are now offering a brand new MBA program that builds on our 40 years of history and teaching in the MBA field. It's the Professional MBA. This is an online hybrid part-time program that lasts about 2 years. And this great program is really for those with at least 5 years of professional work experience. It's a great opportunity. It's thematically based with technology enabled and sustainable practices that's really woven throughout the program. You can reach out to us and we'd be happy to talk with you a little bit more. But maybe you're not quite sure if this is something you want to dive right into. Maybe you just want to dip a toe in, maybe a whole foot. You can go ahead and do that with our mini MBA experience. It's really an opportunity. It's called the Essentials in Management and Mini MBA. This is only a few-week program. We have one coming up very soon. Again, you can reach out to us with any additional questions, and we'd be happy to help you out with that. But it's a great opportunity to begin, and that one begins, I believe, in March, right at the beginning of March, for those who are interested in just kind of, like I said, maybe getting a little flavor, a little taste of an MBA program. And you can learn a little bit more about it there. And you can reach out to us once again at applygrad@bentley.edu. We have a quick question here in regards to graduate assistantships available for fall applications. We do offer graduate assistantships as part of your program. It's not a requirement, but it's definitely something we encourage all students to take a look at. You heard both Danielle talk a little bit about her internship experiences and how incredibly critical it was to her success in helping her get that boost. And so you can work with our career services department. I put a couple of links in the chat there, and they're more than happy to, you can check out there and you can see kind of where some of our students are working with and going to. And then once you become a student here, you can work with our Career Development Center, and they can work with you in helping you find opportunities for internships as part of your program. So the application process, how long does it take? So depending on the program that you're applying to, it's a little bit different for the different ones right now. For the Professional MBA, for those with 5+ years, round 2 applications are due by February 1st. With a decision release of February 28th. Round 3 for that program is on March 15th with a decision release of April 10th. For our traditional MBA programs and our other programs, we have round 3 coming up on February 1st with a decision release of March 15th. And then for international students, we'll be taking them up into June 1st. For the fall term, and then for our domestic students, we'll be taking applications up into August 1st for that as we go through. So for the Master's in Accounting program, yes, the next round deadline is February 1st, and then and those will be released roughly around March 15th, and then after that, we'll continue to take them for international up till June 1st and domestic up until August 1st. So hopefully that answers all of the questions for everybody here. So that's a little bit about that. If you do again have any questions, I'm going to put our email in the website in the chat here, applygrad@bentley.edu, and then you can go ahead and submit any and all questions, or we can schedule a time to chat. Me and my team are happy to speak with you, talk with you about your own personal situation, and see how we can support you in your graduate school experiences as you're thinking about Bentley University. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you all very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Ferguson to wrap us up and end today's session.
Well, thank you all. One of the points I also want to make here, particularly on this slide, while the mini MBA it has MBA in the title, I think it's also a great sampler of the different elements that might be in all of our various grad programs. So don't let that dissuade you if you're interested. you know, we'll have accounting faculty in there, we'll have finance faculty. And so it's a great tool to kind of explore, right? And so, and it's not, while it says mini MBA, you know, it's open for other things that can benefit you from a career perspective as well. So, so yeah. Next slide, Gordon. And so please just stay in touch with us. One of the things we pride ourselves on is an intimate kind of admissions process. Gordon and the team are very, you know, hands-on, and don't hesitate to ask us questions, right? Each of these QR codes are ways for you to engage with us beyond the mini MBA in our executive and professional education courses. These are our short courses. We have an upcoming course on AI for business advantage. We also have a leading transformation and business health program. If you want to talk to a student and get that perspective, we can do that. That's the second QR code. If you want to talk to someone about the process and, you know, get some feedback on your, you know, how your application can be better, we can set up an admissions consultation. If you just want to see the cool things that we do, stay with us on Instagram and LinkedIn. And so thanks so much, everyone. This recording will go out in a kind of summary email, and we hope that you all apply to Bentley. Thanks again to our panelists, and thanks again, Gordon.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.